Today we've got a really special treat for you. We're here with Sezin Nadaway, and we're going to be doing something that I absolutely love. We're cooking in the bush. We're at Sezin's home. Thank you very much for the invitation.
Welcome.
Tell us what we're doing today.
Okay, so today we're going to make venison stew a la outdoor.
A la outdoors.
A la outdoors.
I like a la outdoors.
And we have our root vegetables here. We
Okay.
have our deer meat right here. Very simple. And also we have two special little ingredients.
Ooh.
Foraged from today.
You went out and picked that right back there.
Right behind my backyard, like right here.
And you took it home and you gave it some absolute love. And did you pickle these?
Yes,
So they're going to be slightly pickled.
slightly.
Oh, I caught that. Did you see that? My arm
It
is
doesn't want you
trained.
to eat it. Here,
Big crunch.
give me one of those.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Delicious, fresh. I love it.
Fragrant.
So that came from your land, and
This special guy right here. Maple syrup. Foraged, produced, tapped from the trees around here. This is maple syrup. Boiled right here.
I can't lie. When I first got here, Sezin knows my love for maple syrup, and she goes, "Do you want to do a morning shot?" We did a morning shot of maple syrup. I'm telling you, I've had maple syrup around the world, and it's got a body to it and a flavor that it's purely you. You know, when I taste your food, it's always rich and delicious and full of flavor, and it's exemplified by this little bottle of golden nectar. So I'm looking forward to seeing how you use this in this.
Awesome.
So
Well,
let's get into it.
let's get started.
Yeah.
So I'm going to start off by heating some butter.
Okay.
You want to grab that because
Yep.
we're going to bring that over.
Yep,
So we've heated up our cast iron.
sure.
We need it nice and hot.
Yep.
Give me a second. Ooh, she's perfectly nice and hot. So we just want to melt our butter.
Okay.
You can use any kind of fats you wish. You can use olive oil, you can use vegetable oil, canola oil, any kind of oil. I like to use butter.
Oh, butter is beautiful.
It's beautiful.
It tastes great.
Yep.
There's nothing like the taste of really great butter.
Yep.
Do you make your own butter here too, Sezin?
No. Yes, I do with my cows.
There we go.
In the
They're-
bush.
They're in the bush. Bush cows.
Bush cows.
Bush cows.
So here we've melted our fats. You can see it's starting to turn a little brown.
Yep.
We can throw in our meat now.
Okay.
So that's the sound that you want to hear.
That sizzle, that instant bang.
Sizzle.
Yeah.
So here we go. And while my meat's browning, I'm going to throw in some of that wild garlic that we picked.
Okay.
So hand me over the wild garlic.
Yes, ma'am. There you go, chef.
Thank you. I'm going to leave these whole
Right.
just because, you know,
It's nice. You get a nice big, crunch of something.
yes.
And also, when you're eating it, you like to see what you're eating. Like you know
Exactly.
that's going to be wild garlic.
Heck yeah.
Absolutely. You went through all that trouble of going out to the bush, I'm sure 30 paces that way, and picking all this up. So,
I don't want to start chopping it up unless it's for like a fine cuisine. Then I'll cut it
make
up
it a little
bit
pretty
more.
But this is very rustic. This is home style cooking. This is what you were raised with. This
Yeah.
is what you do.
Big
And
chunks.
Absolutely. This is just boom,
Chunky like me.
giddy up. Makes two of us. The chunky stew. It's all good. So
Awesome.
we're gonna brown up the meat.
Yes.
And that'll take 5-10 minutes.
Yep.
And what else is going to be going in this aside from the meat and the root vegetables? I see this pot right here, and this has got me a little intrigued.
You're going to be intrigued for a little bit longer.
Okay.
I'll just leave that there
You're
for a
not
bit.
sharing anything until it's time, eh?
No.
Just like a classic chef.
A little
Brilliant.
bit.
So again, the
I'm
salt,
going to
the salt, pepper.
season it.
Yep.
And you can add salt to your taste.
Okay.
You can add no salt.
Right.
You can add a lot of salt.
Yep.
But
Personal preference.
personal preference.
I noticed that your salt is pink.
Himalayan salt.
There you go. So
Yeah.
you're adding another element to your food. So you're using not just regular table salt,
No.
but you're using a really nice pink Himalayan salt.
And it's, you know, it's a nice color, it's
Absolutely.
nice flavor,
Yeah.
and it's healthier than the iodized salt.
Agreed. I don't use it personally.
No?
I use whenever I go out east or out west, I get sea salt. And you can go to any fishmonger. Actually, we went to Newfoundland last year, and we ended up at a wonderful fish store right by the ocean, and they had no fish. But my buddy Don said, take a look at this. And it was just a big box full of sea salt. Now you go to the high-end store, they're going to charge you $8 for something like this, and they had them all wrapped up in little baggies for 50 cents. I bought everything.
Awesome.
So now I came home, I smoked some salt, and I understand why use iodized salt
Yep,
when you've got something so much better.
exactly.
It's all about the ingredients that you put into your food
Yep,
and
beauty.
beauty.
Yep.
Absolutely.
So here we have fresh cracked peppercorns as well.
Yep.
So that's what we're gonna add.
Nice.
And again, it's to your preference.
Perfect.
If you want more, but if you want more pepper,
Yep.
you add more pepper.
Yep.
Less pepper.
That's what cooking is. It's all
Yeah.
a matter of personal preference, and the meat isn't taking long to brown up at all.
No, not at all.
You know, cast iron, open wood fire, it doesn't get any better than this. In my opinion, this is the epitome. You know, when you go camping and stuff, this is always fun. But when you get the surroundings that you have and living up here, and you get to just go out your front door, build a fire, and cook. Brilliant. I
Real
love
simple.
it. I love it.
And you don't want your fire to be super hot either, because if it's super crazy hot, then it's just gonna like
And you
burn
can't get
yourself.
near the fire to
Yeah.
actually do your cooking. So yeah, a nice controlled flame.
Yeah.
All right, so you're browning the meat nicely.
Yes.
And obviously this is going to need more than wild garlic and meat. So what do you want me to get for you?
The basket of the diced root vegetables, please.
What a beautiful basket.
Ah, thank you.
I love this.
It's for the show.
It is for the show. Look at this, eh? Isn't that nice?
Awesome.
All right.
So I am going to put in some celery here.
All right.
And usually I do these in stages, but today, because you know, it's a little hot out here.
Sure.
We're just gonna add everything. We have beans here, we have parsnips, potatoes, turnips, all of the beautiful root vegetables. And you can add any kind of vegetables you wish.
Okay.
It doesn't have to be these kinds of vegetables.
Right.
Okay, and you cut the vegetables the size that you want as well. It could be like really small, it could be like super chunky.
Yeah.
You know, like I like it chunky.
So essentially the larger the piece of vegetable, the longer you're going to have to cook it.
Yes.
So that it breaks down. If you've got very small pieces, it's going to go very quickly. But if you've got large pieces, you're talking maybe an hour
Yes.
to actually cook this? Right. So extend your time. The larger the piece,
Yeah.
the more time you're going to give it.
Also, the type of meat. If you're using a more tender meat, then
Right.
it'll be longer to cook. If it's, what did I say? Tender?
If it's
so
tender, less time.
Yes, that's what I mean.
Right. So if you're using the neck or the shoulder
Yeah.
of the animal, then you're going to braise it a whole
Lot
lot
longer.
so that
Yes.
it breaks down all those connective tissues.
My mind was saying that.
That's okay.
But my
I
mouth
am your
was-
speaker because I'm actually reading what you want to say. I'm just
Exactly.
saying it for you.
Yes, thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome.
So here we go.
Okay.
We've coated all the juices, we've coated the vegetables with all the juices that were at the bottom.
Right.
So now what
Yep.
we're going to do is we're going to take this mystery liquid,
Right.
or you could just pour it right
Do you want me to pour it in?
Yes, please.
Okay. Including the floaties?
Nope. Go ahead. So what we're pouring here, the mystery, is just black tea.
Oh.
Instead of using, you know, meat, what do you call a beef broth.
Right.
Oops, there we go.
We got a tea bag in.
Yeah, that'll happen. So,
Awesome. We got enough in there?
yeah, I would pour a little bit
A
more.
little bit more?
Yeah.
All right. Watch your hands.
There you go.
Might as well use it all
Yeah,
way.
may as well.
Yep.
There you go.
Perfect.
So yeah, the reason why I use a lot of black tea in my cooking is because it's something that was really close to my grandmother's stove, and it
Right.
was reachable. So you know, like why not, instead of getting like a water that's kind of like out of the way?
Use flavor.
Yeah. Plus, it's flavorful.
Absolutely. If you're going to use water, that's fine.
Yes,
You
it's
can use
fine.
it.
You can use water.
But you know what? If you've got something that's flavorful to add, You know, sometimes you don't have chicken stock. Sometimes you don't have beef stock.
Nope.
Or caribou stock or beef or whatever.
Yeah.
Tea.
Why not?
Love it.
Yes.
I never even thought of using black tea. Again, another Sezin trick. But you know what? That's why you guys bought the package, you know, is to learn how this wonderful chef makes this stew. And now you know it. Little tricks means a
Also,
lot.
I'm just gonna add a little bit of the vinegar just to give it a little, you know,
Yeah,
add a little bit more flavor.
for sure.
And now the ultimate secret ingredient I add to everything. Yes, I add love, but I also add, you know it,
Maple syrup.
you know it,
Say when.
when. And I find that brings everything
A
together.
little sweetness. So you got a little vinegar added. So you've got that acidity in there.
Yep.
You've got the sweetness of the maple syrup. You have the earth tones of the meat and the vegetables, and you've got that wicked whack of black tea.
A little bit.
I'm looking forward to trying this.
You're
when it's all said
forgetting
and done.
another ingredient that's going into this without even knowing it. What do you do?
Love.
That, but this is a little test. What else is going in here? What's getting in our eyes?
Oh, smoke, obviously, the smoky flavor.
Yep.
Yeah, for sure.
That's what's
Absolutely.
going in
It's a
there.
big dynamic.
Yeah.
Anytime that you cook over wood, charcoal, you produce flame. Flame equals smoke. Smoke equals flavor. And that's what I'm all about.
Yeah.
And apparently, you know, people have been doing this a whole lot longer than I have.
Mm-hmm.
And to actually do it, you know, the original way, you know, build a fire, get some root vegetables, go slaughter an animal, butcher it out, and make yourself a really good stew.
I'm listening, but
I know. It's
Smoke.
you know what? I think it's your grandmother just touching you right now, going, "You're using my idea, so I'm going to throw some smoke in your eyes."
especially in your eye.
Absolutely, it's all about love.
Okay, I'm walking out of the frame.
All right. Well, she's walking out of the frame. We're going to let this cook for a whole lot longer. We're going to come back when it finishes cooking and show you what the final dish looks like. Stick around. What a treat we have for you. I love bread. Bread is one of my favorite things on earth, and we're going to do something very special.
Yes.
What are we doing, Sezin?
So with this stew, I usually like to dip some bread, a little butter on the bread. And bread that we're gonna make today is bannock.
Bannock.
Yes.
Traditional bread.
It's an adapted culture. This is not a Spanish, it's a Scottish bread that was adapted into our culture.
Oh.
I would just like to clarify that.
No, I'm glad, because this is what it's all about, is learning. When we were
Yes.
in your house, you were teaching me so much, and that's what I love working about the festival, is you get to learn so much.
Yes.
And I'm corrected all the time, and that's a good thing, because ignorance, there's no excuse for it. You can't be ignorant of something, so learn about it.
Yep.
So
Education.
education is key. Is key.
So yes, we've adopted it, and you know, so we made it our own,
Cool.
and it's part of who we are as well now.
Yep.
So bannock,
Right.
I grew up on it.
Yep.
And a lot of it was cooked on open fire along with the stew or
Very
anything
cool.
that was cooked open fire.
Boom.
Yep.
Right there.
Really simple, the simplest bannock that I can do, because I'm really horrible at kneading
Okay.
the bannock, because then it comes out like rough.
Concrete.
Yes, concrete.
Yeah. Very hard.
Yep. So
Yep.
ingredient,
Flour.
easy.
What kind of flour? All-purpose flour?
All-purpose flour.
Okay.
Simple.
Gotcha.
About 4 cups
Wow.
right here.
Okay.
And then right here we have baking powder.
Okay.
It's about a tablespoon and a half,
Okay.
just to show you guys.
Right.
That. Maybe a little bit more.
So
a little bit more.
whatever, nice and fluffy,
Yes, make
You
it
know?
nice and fluffy.
because that's what's going to basically make that bread puff up.
Yes.
Great.
So again,
Pink Himalayan salt.
yes.
Okay.
You can add again to your preference.
Right.
If you like a saltier bread, by all means,
So about a tablespoon.
yes,
Okay.
add more salt or no salt at all.
Gotcha.
Give that a quick stir.
So if somebody's on dietary restrictions, they don't necessarily have to put salt in this bread.
No, you
Perfect.
don't.
Yeah.
But if you want to add flavor,
Pepper.
you can add some pepper.
Gotcha. And while you're doing that,
Yes.
I need to put some butter on this pan so it doesn't stick.
Yes.
So essentially a little paper towel, some
That's all
really
it
good
is.
butter. Now,
Yes.
do you use salted butter or unsalted butter?
I like salted butter.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay.
I would add a lot more, actually.
A lot more?
Yes.
Okay.
Don't cheap out on me.
No.
Generous.
This is a learning process. So really goop it
Yeah.
on there.
Goop it on.
Make it thick. Make it show. You know, you
Yeah.
want to see that butter, and
There you go. And it also, the reason why we goop it on is because it gives it such a nice crunch. Like when you get your bannock, when you take it out, especially, oh, it's just
yeah,
beautiful.
absolutely.
So that's what
Textural
we're going.
qualities are very important.
Yes.
Okay, so we've got our pan all lubed up with butter, and of course we're going to need some liquid to that.
Yes.
And
So lukewarm water
Okay,
right here.
right.
And you know what? I don't measure.
It's all about feel.
It's always feel, the
Okay.
look.
Right.
Okay, make a little well. Add your water gradually. Stir as you go. You don't want to go nuts. You don't want to go nuts. You're already nuts enough.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. So just kind of gently stir.
Until it comes together.
Yeah, as you can see, we need a little bit more water. Thank
Right.
you for holding it.
You're very welcome. It's teamwork,
Yes,
and it's
yes.
fun.
Oh, yes.
You know, we're outside. We're making bread. Seriously,
Totally,
it's kind
yes.
of cool, eh?
Yep. So here we go. See how the liquid is starting to absorb all the dry?
Right.
This is what we want. We don't want to add too much.
Okay.
And I know some people, they add like fat to this. This is, you know, as simple as I get.
Okay. And if you want to add flavorings to this,
Yeah.
you know, if you want to get all shishi lala, you could probably add chopped chives.
You
And
could.
you can make it yours. But right now we're doing
Simple.
simple
Yeah, very simple, basic.
Gotcha.
And instead of adding water as well, you could even add
black tea.
black tea.
Yeah.
But I was gonna say, if you want to go like crazy, you add some fresh herbs to this. You're talking chives.
Yeah.
You can add chopped wild garlic in here, and then add beer instead of water.
Giddy up.
Holy cow!
Giddy up.
Game changer.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Nice.
So here we go.
Right?
This is the texture that we're looking for. See
Okay.
how it's
So
kind of fluffy.
just came together, a little fluffy.
Yeah.
It's not dry anymore, and it's
No.
definitely not wet.
No.
And it's not sticking to the bowl.
Nope. Well, a little bit.
A little bit.
A little bit.
Well, obviously,
Yeah.
you know, it's dough.
And you don't want to over mix it. This is as much mixing as you want to do.
It'll just get too tough otherwise.
Yes.
Okay.
So right here, let's pour it into this beautiful cast iron that's been beautifully buttered.
Right?
So there you go. You just kind of spread it out
Right?
evenly. And that's it. And if you want to go a little bit more fancier,
Ooh, a
there
little
you
bit
go.
of pepper on top.
More pepper.
Beautiful.
I love pepper.
All
There you
right.
go.
And that's it.
That's it.
So she goes right onto the fire.
She goes right onto the fire.
Now, fire can be a tricky thing. So how are you going to cook this bread without actually burning the bottom? I think that's really important to mention on how you're going to do that.
You're going to have to move it around a lot.
So you're turning to turning. Now, I also see you're using half indirect and half direct.
Yes.
So you're getting a little bit more heat on one side, and that's why you're turning the pan,
Yes.
is to regulate the amount of fire that touches the bottom of the pan.
That needs a bit more attention than the stew does. The stew, you can leave it now.
Of course, it's a liquid. It's
Yes.
just going to do its thing. But the bread, that needs some love.
Yeah,
Everything needs love, but that really needs special attention.
yeah.
Okay.
So there you go.
So, anyways, we're going to finish off doing the bannock. We're going to let that stew roll and do its thing, and we'll be back to check out on some really awesome food.
Miigwech, everyone. So we're here today. We're gonna forge the ingredient that we're going to use for our stew. This is wild garlic, also known as ramps. We're going to use the bulb as well as the green because my recipe, I think calls for kale, but I couldn't find any kale in my local grocery store. So we're gonna use wild garlic leaves. So wild garlic is usually, the season starts at the end of May. And what you wanna do is you wanna pick the ones that have the thicker roots, and you don't pick all of it. You wanna leave some here, like maybe you wanna pick like maybe 50%, 60, depending the amount. Like here, I'm not gonna pick everything because I like to leave a little bit left. And you wanna snap off the bulb and leave the roots in there. So here we go. We're just gonna dig out a bulb. It takes a while. It's, you need patience for it. And you don't wanna just dig everything out. You kinda wanna go one bulb at a time. This one's pretty deep. Oh, there we go. So if you're not afraid of worms or any kind of bugs, you know, she's a beauty. So here we go. This is the wild garlic. Beautiful. So we're just gonna dig out a couple so we can throw it in our stew. Here I go, one. So snapping it off, making sure we don't have no roots. One root, it's fine, it happens. Just put it back in there. So here you go. There's some spots that you can find it's easier to pick, like this spot. Actually, the earth is a little harder, so you have to really, really get in there. Sometimes it's super deep. It's not easy. Foraging, it's fun. It connects you with the land, but it's also very satisfying. It's fresh. You know, it's earthy, it's healthy, except nowadays when I eat too much of this stuff, it gives me heartburn, not gonna lie. So sometimes you get, you know, a half bulb. So you wanna go in there and get that half bulb. Darn it. There's a half bulb. Not leaving anything. There you go.
Well, this is really cool.
Awesome.
We've been tending the fires and watching the stew do, or the stew do its thing, but most importantly, I watched you turn that bannock.
Yep.
Turning it and making sure that the heat was even. And what else are you going to do with this thing?
So also we did the foraging of the wild garlic.
That was very cool, but you know what? I had to stay by the fire.
Oh yeah, you had to watch the
I had
bannock.
to watch the fire because it'd be irresponsible to be out in the bush and let your fire go unattended.
Yes, and you did a great job on the bannock.
Well, thank you very much.
Evenness of it. I'm impressed.
Well, you told me what to do and I tried to do it as best as I could.
There we go.
So let's get into it.
Let's check out the stew,
yep.
see how well she did.
Ooh,
wow.
Look at the color of that.
The beauty.
It's really, really lovely.
Yeah, everything is just amazing.
So are we ready for a bowl?
I think so.
Let me get a bowl.
It hooks me up.
I'm hooking. Ladle.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Here. Let me get some meat in here.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Look at the color of that broth.
At this point, if you want, you can add flour to it to thicken it up, or tomato paste, but I like it natural.
Should we get another one for you?
Yes, please.
Because I'm
Come
actually
on.
going to eat all of this.
Yeah. Don't leave me hanging. Wow. Simple.
Very nice.
There you go.
Delish.
No, I won't put that there.
And the bannock?
Yes, I'll get that.
You want me to move that where?
Oh, sure. You
Okay.
actually, I'll grab it because
Yeah.
I have these awesome
Oh, look at
gloves.
you. Oh, cool.
So there we go. You flipped it over and
Done.
over. Done. This is how you test it. Actually, it's hollow.
So just like you would with a bread,
Yeah.
you want that hollow sound.
Yep.
Fabulous.
There you go.
All right,
Let's
so
cut her up.
let's cut her up and see what you do with this.
God, I hope it turned out.
Oh, I'm sure it's going to be beautiful.
Just gonna throw that there for a second. Alrighty, so usually we let this cool, but because of TV's sake,
Oh, yeah.
there you go.
Oh,
What do you
look at
think?
that. That's gorgeous.
Beautiful.
Lovely.
So, this is what we usually do.
Okay.
Give me some butter,
Got some butter.
a little bit of butter with your bread.
Of course.
There you go.
Fabulous.
Some stew.
Some stew.
if you want to add extra salt.
No, well, we're going to taste it first to make sure.
Yep. I'm going to put mine just right here because it's pretty hot.
I got to try this.
Yep. I'm going to taste the broth first. I'm adding salt. A little bit more.
That is really, really good. And the nice thing about it is the vegetables aren't mushy.
Nope.
And the meat is tender.
Yes. And it's simple. You just leave everything simmer on its own, and it blends in.
Sorry, but I got to try the bannock too.
Okay, go ahead. This is what you do.
That is ridiculously good. That crunch of the bottom, it's fantastic. I can't wait till all of you make this at home. Sazin, thank you so much for bringing us to your home and sharing some dishes that you've been cooking for years. It's seriously delicious. As a chef, I love the opportunity to learn, and you gave us all that opportunity today.
Well, thanks for having me.
Thank you. Miigwech.
Miigwech.
Closed captioning is brought to you in part by Raven Reads. Unbox Indigenous voices. Subscribe today at ravenreads.org.
On Friday's Daytime Ottawa, we invite you to join us for a special edition of the show as we celebrate Truth and Reconciliation Day here at Rogers TV. Please join us as our guests share some powerful stories and remind us why we can and should become allies to Indigenous people across Canada and, of course, around the world. Our guests will share their Indigenous culture and food and tell us about some fantastic events we can all partake in.
Well, it's time for a cooking segment, and I'm really, really excited about working with you once again. Indigenous Summer Solstice Festival brought us together to celebrate all things culturally inspiring, I should say.
Yeah.
Inspiring, not expiring, because
expiring.
I want to live through this dish because I know what your cooking is like. Tell us about what we're making today.
So we are going to be doing a very simple home dinner.
Okay.
I'm doing pan-seared Arctic char, being served with a hollandaise sauce. It's going to be a dill hollandaise sauce.
Right.
A lot of people are afraid of hollandaise sauce, which is why I chose to do it, because it's actually really easy to do, and you can use it on all eggs, Benedict,
Everything.
every vegetables.
Absolutely.
And just to show people how easy it is to do.
All right.
And how easy it is to recover if we screw it up.
Yes.
So, because that happens too.
It
and
does.
We can recover
Sometimes
it.
they separate, and
Yeah.
you got to bring them back together.
Yeah. So we're doing the pan-seared Arctic char. We're also going to be doing oven roasted potatoes, and we are going to be doing an asparagus. And I chose asparagus because it's spring. Asparagus is fresh. It's a local vegetable.
Right.
And
One of the first little beautiful green things to pop out of the ground.
yeah, and it goes really well with fish. And it's one of those things that you serve with holiday sauce.
Absolutely.
Also. So.
All right. So let's dive into it. What
All
do
right,
we need?
so I'm going to just lift off the ingredients.
Okay.
First for the Arctic char, we'll go through and we'll do the ingredients for the Arctic char, and then we'll do it for the other dishes as we get to them. So for the Arctic char, all I'm going to be using is a little bit of oil, a little bit of butter, salt and pepper, and that's going to be it. We're going to pan-sear it.
Okay.
I don't like my fish well cooked.
No.
I know a lot of people like it more well cooked, but I like it more of the medium rare.
Correct.
This is Arctic char from Nunavut, and it is a nice filet. It's deboned and stuff like that. I have fished for Arctic char when I've been up there. It's a nice fish. It's similar to a salmon. So if people are at home and they don't have Arctic char, they can do the exact same thing with salmon or trout.
Perfect.
The hollandaise sauce goes nice with the redfish, and so all I'm going to do is, depending on the size of your pan or what size of portions you want to make, you're just going to cut it to whichever way.
With your ulu, of course.
With my ulu, which is a traditional Inuit woman's knife.
Right.
Yeah. So, but
Now, when you say a woman's knife,
traditionally Inuit woman's knife.
I love ulus.
Yeah.
So if I'm actually cooking, and I did purchase a couple of ulus, Would I be frowned upon by using something that's considered a woman's tool?
No.
No.
No. Not if, I mean, if
Because
you're not
there's
used,
a great big Alaskans as well.
Yeah. They're different from different regions, different shapes, different sizes,
Okay.
different used for different things.
Okay.
We also have small ones for sewing and stuff like that. And
Right.
These ones would be used for cleaning all the fat off of seals.
Well, I
and stuff
use the
like
big
that.
Alaskan to cut through the ribs.
Yeah.
I think it works really,
Yeah.
really well.
Yeah.
And
You know, it's sometimes when there's ceremonies and stuff like that going on, opening of new buildings and stuff like that, they use an ulu to cut the ribbon.
right.
At that point, a man should not do it.
Ah,
It is a woman who should be cutting
Really?
because it is a woman's knife. It's not. For,
gotcha.
I mean, that's my understanding.
Okay. That's cool.
Yeah.
That's
so,
cool.
but
I just want to
Yeah.
I want to get it from the source because I don't want to be wrong when I'm talking to somebody. So the best way of actually getting rid of all that is to talk to somebody who's actually impacted by.
Well, there's
dairy.
also a man's knife, right?
Right.
And the man's knife is a long one, but it would be used for cutting the snow, the big snow cubes for making igloos. So there's a man's knife and there's a traditional Inuit woman's knife.
Cool.
And when they're first made, like let's say there's a young boy making his first one, or like an adult male or something like that, he generally would gift it to his grandmother, his mother, or his wife,
Oh, that's cool.
or somebody in the community
That's
that
cool.
did something for him.
So you could have ulus out there that are literally hundreds of years old.
Oh, absolutely, and people don't just own one.
Wow.
Like I probably have 7.
Well, it's like a chef
And
with their
that's nothing-
knives.
yeah,
You don't just have
pretty
one
much.
knife because a lot of
Yeah.
them are purpose built.
Yes.
Yeah.
And this one I got from an elder in Iqaluit, Mo Lewis, who I've known for years and years and years,
Okay.
and he's one of the most well-known ulu makers.
And I also notice there's bone on it as well.
This
Or antler, is it?
this is caribou antler, and
Cool.
it's much darker than because
That's
it's
because you've used it.
well that, and there's iron from seal because I use this ulu to butcher seal.
Oh, cool.
So it changed the whole handle, changed the blade a little bit.
Nice.
And it's only ulu is only sharp on one side.
Right.
Right. So it's not on both sides, and it's on like a regular knife.
Right.
A knife is sharp on both sides.
Correct.
Right. So I don't use an ulu a lot. I use it for certain things, but for other things, I'm more used to a knife because again, I didn't grow up in the north. You know, left when I was 7 years old, so I
Right.
wasn't using this as a lifelong tool.
Right.
There's people who this exclusively
It's
use
an
ulu.
extension of their hand.
That's all they use.
Right.
So you're just going to determine, like I would say, this is going to be enough fish for 4 people here.
Okay.
Right? You're going to get 4 to 6 ounces each. So you're just going to, and an ulu is a rocker, and very sharp. So you cut, and this fish also has a skin on. Sometimes if you're going to a store and stuff like that, if you're buying other kinds of fish or Arctic char, you can have it with the skin off. I love the skin.
Yep.
So if I'm buying fish, I'm buying it with skin on. We're
Correct.
actually probably going to get probably 5 pieces out of this. Do you want to try and cut it?
Yeah, I'll give it a shot.
And this char is a little bit frozen. It's much easier to cut through when it's frozen, or if you have a sharp knife, a knife will go through it anyway. Yeah, so instead of sawing, yeah.
You want to do this.
Yes,
So I'm used to doing this.
yes. I find myself doing the same thing at times.
It's very cool.
So that's pretty much it.
Okay.
So these are 5 pullets, for a family of 4 or 5.
Right? or one very hungry
Or
stuff.
one very hungry.
Yep.
And the nice thing too about fish is if you don't end up using it all at dinner, you can make it into like
Everything.
a fish spread or something for a sandwich
Absolutely.
the next day, right?
Yep.
So I'm not going to put, this is my ulu holder, it's a caribou antler, but my ulu's now got fish, so I'm not going to put it down, I'm going to put it to the side.
Right.
Some people might choose to flour this or not.
Okay.
I'm not going to.
Yeah.
Because I just don't want it to have a crust. I want it to just be the fish.
Okay.
So
Now, what is going to be your frying medium? Are you using butter or are you using oil?
I'm going to do it, oh, sorry, I'm talking to you backwards here.
That's okay.
That. I'm going to do it with oil.
Okay.
No, I'm going to add butter too.
Okay. We'll do that.
If you just use butter, it's going to burn.
Right.
So I always balance it with a little bit of
A
oil.
nice little 50-50 mix.
Yeah, well, a bit more butter than oil because
Okay.
I love butter.
Same here.
Who doesn't?
Right.
And you do want enough that the fish is not going to stick to the pan.
Okay.
So I'm going to say that's probably about 3 or 4 maybe
Yeah.
about 2 tablespoons of oil.
Sure.
You want it so that it's coating everywhere. It's going to be, you don't want the fish swimming in it, but you also don't want the fish.
You definitely
not-
want a barrier between the steel and the fish.
Yes. Yeah. So I'm going to,
A healthy nug of butter.
yeah. And a lot of recipes call for unsalted butter, but then you're putting salt on things.
Okay.
I always use salted butter unless it's for baking. That's
Right.
a little more finicky.
Right.
So I always use salted butter and use less salt for seasoning after if you need to be. You want this to get a little bit, you want the butter to melt, you want the fish to have, or the oil and the butter to have a bit of heat to it, not burning, but
Would you season the fish before
Yes.
it goes in the pan?
yeah, a little bit.
So a little bit of salt, a little
Yeah,
bit of pepper?
and not a long time before, especially with the salt, because if you put salt on
break
too
down.
soon, it'll break down. It's going to bleed the fish, right? Take out all the moisture.
Right.
And here I'm just adjusting the size of the pepper.
grind?
Yeah, because the bigger the grind, the bigger piece can get stuck in your tooth.
Mm-hmm.
And I like pepper, but I don't like crunching on the big peppercorns.
Okay. See, I'm the exact opposite.
Yeah.
After a salad and I find something that I find is a little nasty, and then I crunch on it, and it's a nice big
Yeah.
burst of pepper. Oh,
No, not for me.
okay.
And also means that you can, down low, you're going to get it concentrated.
Right.
Up high, it's going to spread a little further.
Right.
And salt is one of those things that's personal taste.
And it's always nice to use a natural sea salt also.
Yes.
I noticed that that we're using a natural large coarse sea salt in grinding it down.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Fresh salt and fresh pepper, always nicer when it's ground yourself.
Right.
Like instead of buying the iodized stuff or the crushed, so that's already crushed, because it's much fresher.
So the pan is nice and warm.
Yeah.
The butter's melted.
You can see it bubbling.
Right.
You want it to bubble maybe a bit more. You
Get
want
rid
it,
of all that liquid.
yeah, because the other thing too is with the oil, if it's not hot enough, your fish is going to stick to the pan.
Correct.
So you want it to be hot so that it doesn't
Yep.
stick. And we can probably get 3 pieces in here, but then we're kind of overcrowding it.
Yeah, we don't
So I'm
want
just
that.
going to do 1 piece just to
Absolutely.
show, bring it through.
Right.
And like I said, I would like my fish to be about medium rare, so I'm going to suggest 4 to 6 minutes on each side.
Right.
It is a bit frozen,
Yep.
so it's going to not cook really fast.
Right. Beautiful.
So you have that little, you can hear that. So, and I always test with the tip of my fish.
Right.
And if it doesn't have a sizzle, I wait. So it has a sizzle, now I'm going to put it down.
Nice sound.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
I can
Nice
use
little
my hand.
bubble, nice little light little bubbling. So,
Yeah, and that's happening, so that's 4 to 6 minutes on either side.
Right.
So while that's happening, we could be moving on and working on what's next, right?
Right.
So I'm going to actually put that rest of this fish just off to the side.
I'll take that
here.
for you.
Okay. I need a cloth.
All right, so while the fish is going, I turned on your water for your steam.
Okay, super.
And what would you like to work on
I think
next?
we're going to do the potatoes next.
Gonna do the potatoes?
Yeah, because they're going to take a little bit of time also.
All right. So we've got some potatoes here that
Yeah.
I found for you.
So these have been microwaved
Okay.
about 7 minutes,
About
so
that.
that they're par cooked.
They're cooked.
So with the oven roasted potatoes, we're going to be making them also in a fry pan.
Okay.
I'm actually called them oven roasted, but they're actually pan roasted.
Right.
Because
Well,
we
you
can do
could
both ways.
do them either way.
Yeah.
If you wanted to, you could actually start them off in the pan, finish them in your oven.
Yeah.
Or for us, we expedited everything by just actually parboiling the potatoes beforehand, and away we go. So,
Yeah.
do we want to season the potatoes before they go in the pan,
No,
or just put them right in?
I'm just going to do it like that again.
Heat up the pan.
So now you did it. Okay.
There you go.
All these new.
I know, eh? The modern marvels. I'm used to just putting a piece of wood in the oven and heating it up, and that seems to be okay with me. But
So again, oil. The oil is so that the butter doesn't burn.
Right.
We don't need that anymore.
Thank you.
Keep an eye on your fish at the same time. And depending on the thickness of the fish, it might cook a little faster.
Right.
But you can also see on the edges, like where it's cooking, and that's, yeah, it's going to be about another 2 minutes there. So maybe I put in a bit too much
that's
oil.
okay. No, you can't go wrong with butter. It's potatoes.
I know, it's butter.
It'll soak it all in. And what are we going to be putting in with the butter? With the potatoes as well?
So with the potatoes, well, we're going to get them in. What I'm going to do is we'll put them in there, and I'll get you to kind of keep an eye on them. We'll switch sides,
Okay.
and you're going to move them around a bit for me.
For sure.
And while those are browning, I'm just going to make like a little herb mixture. We're going to use some dill, some thyme, some cilantro, garlic, salt, pepper, and smoked paprika.
Lovely.
And we're just going to toss it on the
All right.
potatoes once they're browned.
Let's switch now. You can start on your herbs.
And that fish.
You want me to flip it?
I think, yeah, you want another fork?
No, I'm
Yeah,
good.
maybe we'll flip it and just see how it's looking.
It's still sticking a little bit. We'll just be a little bit gentle with it. There we go.
nice. Okay. Yep.
Beautiful.
So with your garlic, I'm using fresh garlic. Cut off the end, that brown end, the kind of the root end, I guess.
Right.
And then you just
Give it a
that,
crush.
and the peel comes right off, and you're left just with the garlic bulb itself.
Perfect.
And so for these, for the potatoes, I'm now just going to, I'm not going to find, I'm just going to dice them like minced almost.
Okay.
Because I want to taste that little bit of roasted garlic with the potatoes. So just a quick mince. You could mulch them, you can use whole cloves.
Right.
The more you break them up, the stronger the garlic taste is.
I think you're going to have enough residual heat in that pan to finish cooking off the fish.
Okay.
So we're going to take that
So
off.
that's probably ready for the potatoes.
We'll throw some potatoes in. Oh, get a little splatter.
So I have the garlic ready. I have fresh dill here. You could take off a few, just a sprigs. You don't want the thick, heavy stalks.
Right.
So just a few sprigs. And you're just going to just chop them up a little bit. Dill to me, it's just so nice to go with fish. So it helps transition from the fish to it unifies the dish a little bit.
Right.
So we're going to have dill on the potatoes. We're not going to have any dill on the fish itself, but we're going to put dill in the hollandaise sauce.
Okay.
So we have the garlic, we have the dill, we have this is cilantro. Some people don't like cilantro. It tastes like
You either
salt.
hate it or you love it.
Yeah.
My dad hates it. I love it.
Yeah, same here.
You know, it's such a big, fresh, beautiful flavor, but as with anything, you're going to have people on either side of the fence.
Well, from what I understand too, is like for some people it tastes like soap.
Soap,
like
big
fish
time.
liquid.
My dad thinks it tastes like soap.
Yeah, and it's
it's
just
like,
an enzyme.
wow.
Yeah. So if you don't use cilantro, you can use just any parsley.
Right.
Right. So again, I'm not cutting up really fine because I want to have those little bursts of flavor in my mouth.
Okay.
So just like that, chopped up a little bit. And then the other thing I'm having here is thyme. Thyme is one of my favorite herbs.
Right.
And with thyme, you don't cut it. With thyme, you just pick the flower itself.
Right.
And so you just, rub your hand just down like that.
No, I actually take the stems as well, and I use them for little skewers for chicken.
Oh, yeah.
So I'll put 3 or 4 of them together, and I'll make a little hole,
Yeah.
just like you do with your beadwork, with your going through the actual animal skin.
Yeah.
I do the same thing to actually create a hole where I can filter that lovely piece of woody goodness, because a lot of people just throw that out.
Yeah, it's got a lot of flavor.
Or, throw it in stock, do something
Yeah.
with it, use it, because, it's good stuff. You
Yeah.
know, don't throw things out. Reuse them, repurpose
There's
them.
so many things, like everything that you cook with, what we consider like scrap could be used, like you said, for stocks and all
Correct.
that sort of stuff. And just got to remember to label your bags before you put them in the freezer.
Oh, I'm totally guilty of that.
I have too
You
much.
know, at the end of the year, you look into your magic freezer and it's like, what is this?
Yeah.
I can't remember.
I'm guilty of that too.
What protein is it? What vegetable is it? What color is it? What texture is it? Oh, I know.
So, like I said, with the thyme, I'm not even going to chop it with a knife because like I said, it's one of my favorite herbs.
And they're tiny little leaves too.
Yeah, and you can bite through that little stalk that the florets
sure.
are growing on.
Yep.
And again, I mean, it's one of those things. This is what I like to do.
Yep.
You might not like thyme. You might want to switch it with something else. Any of the herbs, anything works. So cooking is what do you enjoy? What does your family like, right?
Right.
Sorry, I'm hot. That's
I know.
dry.
I know.
So those are.
So we're just going to finish off the potatoes.
Yeah.
And what's the last?
They have the last thing we're going to be doing is the hollandaise sauce with
Hollandaise.
asparagus.
Do you want me to put this closer to you so you can work it closer?
Yeah.
All right.
We're going to, before we get to the asparagus, it's going to be so quick.
Yep.
We need to blanch. No, you know what? We can blanch the asparagus, or we can
just put
pan-fry
them
it.
right on top here.
That's what I was going to say.
And let them steam them. So
Before
why
we
don't
put the herbs on.
you show them how proper asparagus is?
So
There we go.
yeah, a lot of people
Yep.
put their asparagus down and they chop it. Every stalk of asparagus has a natural breaking point.
There we go.
You just snap it off. This part is woody.
Yeah, it's snap.
Yeah.
That is woody and hard. That goes into the stock pot.
Yeah.
And this, delicious,
And that's it.
tender, fresh. Oh, that's so good.
So we're going to put these on top of the potatoes before we add the herbs and stuff, because I don't want all of these herbs that are on potatoes onto this.
I just turned off the pan.
Okay, good.
And we can just lay them out, and the steam will actually finish off cooking them.
Yeah.
So we're done with that.
Yeah, and the nice thing with asparagus, it's not one of those vegetables that it's because you eat it raw, right? So it's nice that it's not going to be, it's going to be like a very nice al dente.
Right.
Here we are. Oh, there we go.
On.
So the next thing we're going to be working on is the hollandaise sauce for the asparagus. And we're also going to use a hollandaise sauce on the fish, but we're going to use one hollandaise and we're going to make it 2 ways.
Okay.
So first we're just going to make it with the eggs and the lemon. And that's what's going to go on the fish. And then, the eggs and the lemon is going to go on the hollandaise. Then we're going to add a little bit of fresh dill, and that's what's going to go on the fish. So, lemon juice. I have this handy dandy little lemon squeezer here.
Right.
So just to get ready, right, to have it ready for the hollandaise sauce, the flavoring at the end.
So all your mise en place is being done right now.
Yeah. If you don't have a lemon squeezer, you know what?
Just squeeze.
You can just squeeze. The other thing I like to do is I find this.
That's the best because it actually breaks all of that connective tissue in there
Yeah.
and all those membranes full of pockets of lemony goodness. I use that all the time too.
Yeah.
Or I like to actually grill it beforehand. That way
Oh, you have a smoky flavor on it.
it's smoky, or not just a smoky flavor, but if I'm just simply grilling it, it's actually warming it up, breaking it down so that when I squeeze it, I get everything
Yeah,
out of it.
you see some people rolling it and then popping it in the microwave for a moment and that sort of
Exactly.
stuff. So with a hollandaise sauce, you're only using the egg yolks.
Okay.
And the measurements that I use, fairly standard, 2 egg yolks, 1/4 cup of butter.
Right,
You want your butter melted.
correct.
So I think we're going to need to pop this in a microwave. So I'm just going to pop this in the microwave real quick there, Steph.
Okay.
Oh. No, I don't. You're going to start off with a cooler bowl. I put the bowl on the pot, but I don't want it hot
Right,
because you don't want to cook your egg yolk or scramble it.
right. All right.
And what are you going to do with the meringue, with the whites? Make a meringue.
Absolutely.
Add it to some other eggs for scrambled eggs at another day. And because I'm going to be doing, because I'm making enough hollandaise sauce for the fish itself and the asparagus, I'm not going to just do 2 egg yolks. I'm going to double it.
Right.
Because normally 2 would probably be enough. I needed one more bowl to put the egg yolk in. Here we go, or the egg.
There we go.
This is not quite big enough. So yeah, I'm doubling this one, so it would be 4 eggs and maybe a 1/2 cup of butter. But
All right.
and as easy as hollandaise is, I still get nervous every time I make it.
Right.
It is just one of those things that it might break. But I'm not as nervous as I used to be because I know how to recover it. So you just want to whisk up your yolks a bit. A whisk would be, if you have a whisk, it's great. If
Let's see
not,
if I can find you a whisk. Whisk, 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 whisk.
no, this is, the
Whisk.
fork is fine.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm good. So we're doing a double boiler here. Just a little bit of water in the bottom of the pot.
Okay.
We don't want it to be really heavy because the steam is going to be enough to make this hollandaise sauce.
Okay.
And actually, yeah, you know what? A whisk. We're going
me
to
find
need
you a whisk.
Just because when we're adding the butter, we want to
Yeah.
have that aeration. And I'm going to grab the butter out of the microwave. It's ready to go. So a lot of people and a lot of chefs, depending on how fine your cuisine is going to be and stuff like that, they use clarified butter. I love butter too much. I'm not taking all that stuff out of the butter.
No.
And we're at home, right? These are homemade meals. So just make sure your egg yolks are... So again, not a lot of steam. I need to do this. So 4 eggs, about a 1/2 cup of butter. That looks pretty good.
Sure.
And you're just going to slowly drizzle in your egg. your butter into the egg. Yeah, that's the other thing too. Sometimes you need 4 hands and like be good.
good.
It would be good to be
That's
an
why
octopus.
you have friends in your kitchen.
Yeah, or have an octopus. Can we turn it towards me? Short little bees, like. So and just slowly drizzle
Slowly
in.
emulsify the butter into the fat, or the butter into the eggs.
And it's going to be almost like a lemon custard when you're done. Except
It won't taste like
except
lemon
it's going to be
custard.
butter.
Yeah.
Butter and egg yolk.
Oh, I don't know, lemon custard. You know me and lemons.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah, it's really, really good.
I can do a lot more with a hollandaise sauce than I can do with a lemon custard. So
So you just basically want to keep whisking until it actually increases in volume,
Yeah, and
drops in color to a little paler color.
yeah, a
and,
little thicker
Becomes thick.
because it is going to get a bit thicker because your egg yolks are cooking.
You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to keep whisking that for you,
I'm going to do the potatoes.
and you can actually do the potatoes
Yep.
and maybe start plating everything up.
I'm going to actually, the asparagus itself is going to come right out
Yep.
because the asparagus is ready.
It's ready, it's cooked.
And for all the cooking that I do, Steph, I'm going to, George Laurier was nice enough to give us the use of his kitchen
Yes.
at C'est Bon Cooking School.
Yep.
One day, or 1 week, I am going to come here with George Laurier and learn some plating. Because I do, my cooking is home cooking, and a lot of it I cook out for events and things like that.
Right.
But I'm always awed how beautiful chefs make their plates look. I can make it look okay. It's all separate and stuff. I don't have all that fancy stuff.
Yeah. But you know what? At the end of the day, it's exactly.
It tastes the same.
It tastes great.
And my plate looks good. It looks clean.
Yep.
But it's not as pretty as some plates that I see.
I hear you.
But that's why I want to come back here for George.
So your potatoes.
Yeah, so my potatoes, I'm putting them, so let's just pretend they were on the heat the whole time and this was all happening, but now they're ready. So now I want to finish them, right? I'm going to actually take this out too because this fish is ready.
Yep.
I'm a skin lover.
Me too.
So I'm actually going to put the skin down. Like it's been sitting up like this. It's fairly crispy on the edges, but I'm going to put it down because I want to see the hollandaise sauce on that part of the fish.
Okay.
And with it down too, the hollandaise sauce is not really
Nice
going to-
golden color on the fish as
Beautiful
well.
fish.
That's really pretty.
And it does feel pretty nice. So now I'm just going to finish off my potatoes. So with the cilantro, the dill, we're going to use a little bit on the potatoes. We're going to use a little bit also in the hollandaise sauce after we put some of the hollandaise on the asparagus. So we're just going to bring this to a really quick heat. We don't want it really hot. I'm going to add,
Oh, all of it.
you think?
Oh yeah. Garlic.
I don't have to kiss you tonight.
Oh yeah. I'm Italian. We love garlic.
Did you put lemon by chance in the hollandaise
did
sauce?
not.
Okay. So the
Would
last,
you like that in now?
Yeah, so the last little bit of thing, and this is just to add flavor.
Right.
You can use lemon, and you don't, again, it's how much flavor do you want?
Good.
Right?
Yep.
So I would start off with maybe a half a teaspoon, and you can increase it. It's better to put in too little to start with and add it than it is to put in too much and you can't take it out. Needs more lemon. And actually too, a bit of salt if you could. I'm gonna put it all in, because I like lemon.
And you wanted what?
Just
Pepper?
yeah, a little bit of salt for sure. And again, it's what you like. I don't want a lot of pepper because I've already got pepper on other things.
And if you're worried about the little black flecks, use white pepper.
Yeah.
You know, I don't mind seeing little black flecks. You know, back when I went to George Brown a gazillion years ago, if you made one of these sauces with black pepper, you may as well go home because that's kind of frowned upon.
Yeah, and I don't even have white pepper. I like the flavor of black. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's very nice. Just that little bit of lemon.
Yummy. So essentially you're warming up your potatoes, you're essentially throwing in a little garlic.
Yeah.
You're gonna warm the garlic up or you're gonna brown
Yeah,
it? or-
I don't want the garlic to end up being burnt. I want it just to be warmed a little bit. The same with all the herbs. I don't want all the herbs to go into the pan and sit there and then
Burn.
brown.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just want the heat just to break the essence a little bit.
Perfect.
And if you want your garlic to be browned a bit, that's great.
So be it.
for me, it's a lot of the cooking is what does the individual like?
Right.
What does their family like, right?
Right.
Maybe they don't like garlic.
For sure.
So we're also going to do a little bit of salt and pepper on this. And potatoes can take a fair amount of salt. Oh, sorry. Not used to having somebody helping me.
I know. I know. Trust me. It's when you have somebody in the kitchen that has experienced hands. It's a pleasure, but it's also
It's just so
unnatural. What are you doing? Get out of my kitchen.
So I'm going to say that's enough. The garlic
Sure.
is heated. I'm going to do the thyme first. Thyme is a little bit of a heavier herb.
So what do you want?
So it can take a little bit more time with the heat.
For sure.
And I'm only going to use, I love thyme, so thyme is so good with the other things
Thyme,
like meat.
garlic.
Yeah.
Can't go wrong.
A little bit of dill.
Popping sounds great, eh?
Yeah.
I love it when a pan talks to you. That's when I get excited. It's like how do you know when to do what? How do you know when to do what? Listen to the pan.
Yeah.
The pan's going to tell you what to do.
So the dill I added on.
Yep.
And again, the reason I'm putting dill on here is I like dill myself. I should have had a glass of water.
Listen.
But the other thing too is like you're tying the dill from the potatoes into the dill hollandaise that's going to happen shortly.
Right.
So cilantro, we can turn this off now.
Okay.
Do this. And we do that, of course.
It's all good.
Yeah, so I'm just going to add, I love the freshness of cilantro.
Me too.
So I'm just going to add that. I don't really want that to get any heat on it. So, and then that's it. And you just kind of pour them onto your plate. See, Steph is being helpful. I'm not used to it. Look at that.
That's gorgeous.
We'll put this down here.
Put that right there.
So now we're going to put, I'll get you a spoon. We're going to put some of the hollandaise, that hollandaise itself, just on the asparagus. And then we're going to add a little bit of dill to it to now do that. And that dill we're going to add onto the fish. And I can eat this like soup.
Me too.
So I want to make sure that I get enough so that every mouthful of the Arctic char that I'm having, I'm going to have a good dollop of.
That looks
Hollandaise sauce.
tasty.
And this is smoked paprika, and it's just pretty. And it can go on everything.
That looks awesome, Trudy. What a fun segment.
It is.
That was a lot of fun. I love cooking with you. I love sharing the kitchen with you, and I love learning from you.
I think we need to taste it, Steph,
Oh, I think
because
we-
it looks good.
We definitely need to taste it, but I'm pretty sure we're going to be tasting this after the cameraman takes some
really?
beauty shots. You got to remember, it's TV.
I keep forgetting.
The guy in the background saying he's talking to me now, going, "Don't touch the dish.
See, I'm not
I
used
need
to
some
this.
beauty shots."
I'm not used to this.
So we'll definitely.
Can we have a potato?
No, we can't touch anything. Have a potato.
All right.
I'm gonna have a potato.
Yes.
Oh.
Hot, but man, I love that dill.
Yeah, it pops.
enough.
Judy, it was fun. Once again, you knocked it out of the park. Really happy to be part of this. And you guys can do this too.
And the nice thing about this is that took us what? Maybe a half hour?
And that's with us doing a whole bunch of stuff.
Well, but even like if we started from the beginning, it's a dish.
Easily.
You can cook a dinner at home for your family, half hour to 45
Easily.
minutes, and you've got
it's a phenomenal dish.
healthy,
Yeah.
Whole
We're not
foods.
talking chicken fingers here in French fries.
and organic.
Atta girl.
Yeah.
Thanks, Chef.
Thank you.
Take care, everybody.
Call the Rogers TV viewer response line, email us, or connect with us on social media.
Enjoy the fresh outdoors. Play an important role in the lives of school-age children. Get paid to make a difference in your community. Become a crossing guard. We are currently recruiting crossing guards for the school year. We offer a competitive wage with various perks and opportunities for bonuses. Join the Ottawa Safety Council in keeping kids safe in the nation's capital. Find out more at crossing-guard.ca.
Hello, my name is Emily Brockbay Hoffler, and today I am here to show you how to make art from nature. So on top of things you found in nature, you will definitely need glue. You could use a paintbrush or you could use a popsicle stick. Other things that you might want are paint to do your background, and we also got these googly eyes. So some of the things we've collected are cedar, moss, we have some small rocks, pieces of birch bark, wood that kind of falls apart. We've got dried flowers, a stick, and also we have some leather scraps. Those might be useful.
Hey, that makes purple.
Yeah.
We can make purple.
And we have birch bark, and we're using some paint for the background. And these are my sons,
Hi.
Christian and Victor, and they are going to help me with this demonstration. So right now they are working on the background. And what are you guys going to make today?
Whiskey Jack.
Whiskey Jack?
Yeah, I'm gonna make Whiskey Jack, but a polar bear.
Okay.
I'm making Whiskey Jack because he's more interesting.
Yeah. So we're working on creating art inspired by some of our favorite stories. And in the Algonquin culture, we have a lot of really interesting magical or trickster characters like Whiskey Jack. We also have Bigfoot. And
Hey, we were searching for Bigfoot.
yeah. And we also have water spirits and other sorts of spirits that live in the forest.
And we also found Bigfoot.
You did?
And they're prints. They're like giant.
All right, so we're gonna get going. So if you found some birch bark, I think we've said it a couple times and I'm gonna keep saying it, please don't pull birch bark off the tree. If you find birch bark that's already on the ground, you can peel off the bark. Or if you find bark that's on the ground, that's great to use also. Now for this project, I'm gonna peel back some of the layers of the bark. This means that more people can use it. And it's also the way that we would make paper, birch bark paper, that we would use for birch bark biting, and we would also cut out shapes to make patterns. So this piece is quite dry. So when you're peeling it back, you want to go, you made green?
Yeah, I made green and green.
Awesome.
You need to.
Are you ready to add some natural elements to yours?
Yeah. I'm ready to put some barks.
Okay, hold on. I'm going to peel some bark for you.
Wood, actually.
So when you're peeling your bark, you want to do it really slowly so that it comes apart in sheets like this. Now, if you're ready for the wood, hold on, hold on. What I'm going to do is where you want to put your glue down. So where do you want to put your wood?
Like along this.
All on that part?
Along the wooden.
All on this part here?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to put this here for you. Okay, and then you can use this paintbrush and you just smooth it around. We actually got materials from our cultural center, the cultural center at Kittican-CB, and in it there were stories about Bigfoot.
And you were pretty excited when you heard that Bigfoot was
I
real.
was excited.
Hey,
Those are really fun stories.
we could just mix it around. I don't know how to draw Bigfoot, so I'm just gonna draw.
Well, you can make the Bigfoot from the bark, or you could use the cedar.
I'm gonna use the bark.
Okay.
Why is there bark in this?
Victor, do you want a Bigfoot?
Yeah, we need Bigfoot.
All right.
Because see all this bark, we're gonna have to put eyes googly eyes. So.
Yeah, you want some googly eyes? So we do have a few things not found in nature, including googly eyes, because they're fun.
Yeah, and they're silly. They're like,
Yeah.
goo, 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 goo.
Second here, look, I've made you a nice Bigfoot.
Oh,
I have
that,
to make everything look small so it looks big, right?
yeah, it looks like Bigfoot.
Yeah, what does he have? Big feet?
Yep, he had
Okay, where do you
big
want to glue him down?
over beside the, over beside when he's like
Like
jump.
here?
Yeah, right
Okay, you
here.
can stick him down.
Nice. Wait, where's the googly eyes?
Okay, you want some googly eyes? I think you're almost done, so let's add your googly eyes.
I'm not even done.
Okay, so there's blue, green, yellow, red.
Red.
You want red?
Yeah, we need two reds. Because Bigfoot has 2 eyes, so we'll need 2 eyeballs of red.
But there could be Cyclops Bigfoot.
No, that could be Cyclops.
He has a bunch of eyes
Are you gonna
over
want
his
googly eyes?
body.
Yes, I do.
What color googly eyes do you want?
Green.
There you Okay, green. Where are you gonna put them?
I need to put dot
I know, but where are you gonna put the eyeballs?
right
there?
here.
Okay.
Dot, dot.
Okay.
And then you just need to put
Back glob.
back glob. Back glob eyeball.
Now, for the rocks, if you have hot glue will probably work better, but if you don't have hot glue, you can use a large dollop of glue,
Like that.
like that, and then just let it sit until it's completely dry. And especially if you're using something like Mod Podge, it will hold it on a little bit better.
Yeah. And like that
And don't worry if
stickiness.
it looks gluey, the glue will dry clear, so you're not going to see the glue.
Okay,
afterwards. Okay, so now I am going to do another wood panel, but you could use canvas, you could use like a thick cardstock, whatever kind of paper you have. I still have things that we've collected from outside, so I've got some cedar, some moss, some leaves, birch bark, a stick, I've got some pebbles, and I'm also using some leather scraps left over from other work and some non-natural products. I've got some googly eyes, those might be fun to use, and I've also got some craft beads, so those might be fun to add as well. And this is wood, and when it gets really dry, it sort of crumbles up, and I thought that might be useful if I'm gonna do some soil on the ground. And when you're working with birch bark, make sure that you just keep saving all the little extra pieces. I save all of my extra birch bark so that I can use it in other artworks. Algonquin people use birch bark for basket making, for canoe making, and we also use it to make patterns, birch bark biting. So we would fold it and then bite it to help make a pattern. And then we would also cut out little pieces to make stencils. So I'm going to use those on this piece as well. And again, you can use any kind of glue. If you're going to be gluing things like rocks, probably heavier glue. If you have an adult who can help you, you could use hot glue. I'm probably going to use the Mod Podge today because it's pretty good. Just make sure that everything's fully dry before you move your piece. So I'm going to use the Mod Podge. You can squeeze it on. You could use a brush, or you could use a popsicle stick, whatever you have to spread your glue. You could use a regular stick too. So I'm going to just put down some Mod Podge because I'm going to add my cedar first. So I'm just going to spread it around. And you want it kind of thick so that it will glue and hold on to whatever you're sticking down. So I think I'm going to use cedar for this character. I might also glue some on the back. Actually, that might be better. Here we go. And I think think what's interesting for me learning about these creatures and spirits is that I'm starting to see sort of a resurgence of these characters like Wendigo or the Whiskey Jack. I think it's fun to use our own sort of magical, powerful spirits and creatures. So I'm gonna let that dry. I'm gonna add some other stuff down here. So I think I'm gonna do some glue, and then I'm going to sort of spread it out. And here I'm gonna add the wood. And I'm gonna add this little cutout. And the way I did this was when you have your birch bark, it can be pulled apart into these little tiny sheets of paper. So that's how I made this. So I did a little sheet of paper, and then I drew the design on the back of the birch bark, and then I cut it out using scissors. So I'm gonna glue that there. So you can see flat things are going to be easier to attach. Something with more texture like the cedar will take longer to dry, and you're probably going to need a lot more glue. And then I'm going to take my wood. And if you use your fingers, you can kind of rub it together. So when this dries, what I'll do is I will tap it off, and I'll save the excess. Whatever falls off, I'm gonna save it, and then I could use it for another project. I like to try to make sure that I don't let anything that I foraged go to waste. So I'll save it to make sure that everything gets used. And if there's natural elements that I haven't used and it doesn't have anything like glue or paint on it, I can always return it to the forest. That's okay too. So now I'm going to create a birch tree. So I cut some of the birch bark into these little strips, and I'm going to just make a line of glue here, and then I'm going to glue down my birch pieces. And this is a fun way to use birch, that the outer part doesn't always get used. If you're making baskets, often it's the inner bark that gets used. So I thought this is sort of a great way to use those outer pieces that might not be used for birch bark biting or basket making. So just make sure you have enough glue that it sticks down, but you don't actually need too much because this is pretty light. There we go. And I can just trim off that piece at the top. And then I'm going to glue some more of the white parts, the outer white birch pieces, to cover up some of the inner bark. And I think that I like this little piece here. It's got a nice natural edge. Now I think I'm going to glue, I made this little biting. It's sort of like the sun. You can see the circle in the center there. So I think I'm gonna glue that at the top. I'll put a little drop there. All right. Okay. Now I'm gonna tap this off, and that will also let me see if my, so you can see quite a lot came off there. And I can also see where the cedar is not quite gluing on. So I'm going to save those little pieces that I tapped off because I can use them again. There we go. All right, that is sticking. I'm going to add a little piece here to cover up this glue. There we go. And then I think I'm going to give my Bigfoot some eyes. So I've got some little eyes here. So there's one little eye. Now I could also cut out from the birch bark if I wanted to make a natural eye. I'm gonna use the googly eyes, just because I think they're kind of fun. And I feel like this character would be a lot of fun. And maybe I'll give him a little hat. Sometimes they'll have these little extra pieces of leather, so they're good to save. You can always ask if you know anyone who might have little extra pieces. I'll also use small pieces like this to make little tiny beadwork pieces so that nothing gets wasted. Okay, so I'll just take those off, and then I think I'm almost done. I think that's a fun little Bigfoot character. I feel like he's hiding in the cedar so we don't see him. Maybe I would glue another branch. And then if I was gonna glue these on, I think I will probably use hot glue. You could do quite like a large blob of regular glue and then just leave them on and let them really, really dry before you move them. And if there's any kind of sort of dirt on the back of your leaves, just remove that before you glue it down because it will make it glue a little bit better. This one's a little bit dusty on the back. So I'm just adding my glue. I think I will put this one here. You can see I've glued down the bigger ones and I've left the smaller ones kind of loose because that will give it some dimension. There we go. And then I could maybe add some moss if I wanted to, but that is it. So thank you so much for joining us. We hope that you had a great time making art from things that you found in nature. We've all done our own version of the Mesaba, the Sabe, or Bigfoot giant. I can't wait to see what you've created. Please use the hashtag #ArtFromNature so that I can see what you've done. And I can't wait to see everybody's art projects. Have a great day. Bye. All right, so I hope everyone enjoyed the tutorial. I'm going to take some time now to answer some questions. If I don't have time to get to everyone's questions, I will do my very best to respond in the comments to any questions that I missed. So the first question I have is, what inspired you to start exploring art? And I have wanted to be an artist pretty much my whole life. My parents said by the time I was 2 or 3, I was talking about being an artist. And I think part of it is because I come from a really creative family, artistic family. My dad is an artist. My mom makes amazing clothes and ribbonware. I have aunts and uncles and grandparents who are artists, writers, creative people, making music. And so I think just being exposed to art and knowing that it was possible to have a creative life really sort of brought me in that direction. What type of art do you create and what mediums do you work with? So I am a mixed media artist. I also do photography, but most recently I've been doing mixed media work and then also some murals with my family. But these are some examples of work that I've been doing recently. This piece is water spirits. It is made from beadwork, including natural elements like stones and crystals, and then painted. This is another piece that I did. It's a study of the night sky. So it's the North Star with some other stars, and I've included abalone and quills, porcupine quills. I've been trying to do pieces that use more natural elements, traditional elements, at the encouragement of Elder Annie Smith St. George. And the last piece I'll show you is a loomed beaded piece, and the background is with birch bark. I use a lot of birch bark in my pieces whenever I can. It is something that Algonquin people have been using for since time immemorial to do baskets and canoes and bitings and cut out patterns. It's a willow tree. You can make syrup. So I do like to try to include it when I can in whatever I'm working on. Who first taught you this art form? I think I've had many teachers in my life. I've had many teachers teaching me how to do beadwork, whether they were family members or through classes that I've taken. I've been studying art since elementary school at different art schools. And then also because I do have a family of artists, I am very lucky that I'm able to learn from them. I've been doing painting with my dad, and I do sewing with my mom. And then also now I do a lot of work with my sisters, Mari and Claire Bracape. So just, I learn from everyone I can. I believe that we need to learn our whole lives. So I'm always excited to learn new things. Can you share an interesting place where we may find your art? I think I'm very fortunate that there are a few places around Ottawa where I'm lucky to have my art being shown in a permanent way. I think the first example that I can think of is the Mamawi piece at Pimisi Station, LeBreton Flats. It's an LRT station in Ottawa. There is a large canoe of over 100 paddles. One of my paddles is there, and we worked with over 100 Algonquin artists. I was selected by the City of Ottawa to be a mentee at that station, and it was a great way to get introduced to making public art and finding out, how to write proposals and sort of prepare myself for a public art life. So that was a great opportunity for me. And then also in May of 2022, I unveiled a piece of art that I was commissioned to create for the National Arts Centre in Ottawa. You can find that piece in their lobby off the canal entrance. It is a large visual mixed media piece I'm really proud of. It is a visual land acknowledgement and a celebration of the great Algonquin nation. So if you're at the National Arts Centre, please go and take a look. And the third piece I can think of is a large mural that I created with my sisters Claire and Mari and my dad Simon. It is at Assumption School in Vanier, which is a neighborhood in Ottawa. We made a large 7 grandfather mural. It is painted on large metal discs and installed outside that school. It's a really exciting piece, I think. I'm really happy with how it turned out. So if you're in the area, please check it out. I do also have pictures on my website, or if you Google me, you'll find me and you can see those pieces. What role do you think art plays in preserving Indigenous cultures? I think art has a long history of preserving culture. When we find, you know, birch bark baskets or other, you know, artifacts created by our ancestors, it tells a story, it tells us something about the culture at that time. So I think it's a great way to preserve culture, tradition, history, and also what I love about art, and especially visual art, is it doesn't speak any language. It speaks every language. So everybody who looks at it has an opportunity to learn something and take something away from it. When I'm creating art, I really try to include a storytelling element. I'm trying to include culture, teachings from elders, history, stories from my family, as a way to continue to preserve, you know, individual history, community history. And I will take one more question. I think this is a good one. How do I become an artist, or how do I pursue a creative life? I think if you feel inspired to be an artist, whether it's a visual artist, an animator, a graphic designer, I think everyone has an important voice. And I would just encourage you to take as many classes as you can. You can find so many free tutorials online. Summer Solstice Indigenous Festival, go on their YouTube. They've got awesome courses available by other artists, all different kinds of artists. And I think it's a great place to start. You know, there's opportunities in school or university or college to take art classes. And I think even reaching out to artists who might be doing mentorship opportunities, it's a great way to learn something new and learn from an artist. There's a lot on the art side, so learning how to make the art, but when you want to be an artist, a working artist, you also need to learn, I guess I'll call it the business side. So writing proposals, finding calls for proposals online. But I think, you know, the first step is figuring out what kind of art you want to make, what kind of art inspires you, and then doing everything you can to learn how to do that, find your voice as an artist. And then as you grow up and as you get older, finding ways to sell your art, to promote your art. So I would just encourage anyone who wants to be an artist, you can do it. You know, just live your best creative life. Thank you so much for joining me. Like I said, if I didn't get to your question, I will do my very best to answer all the questions in the comments. Thank you so much. Chi miigwech. See you next time.
Closed captioning is brought to you in part by Raven Reads. Unbox Indigenous voices. Subscribe today at ravenreads.org.
Call the Rogers TV viewer response line. Email us or connect with us on social media.
On Friday's Daytime Ottawa, we invite you to join us for a special edition of the show as we celebrate Truth and Reconciliation Day here at Rogers TV. Please join us as our guests share some powerful stories and remind us why we can and should become allies to Indigenous people across Canada and, of course, around the world. Our guests will share their Indigenous culture and food and tell us about some fantastic events we can all partake in.
Join me for Season 3 of Paula Roy's Favorite Foods. Whew, that was a lot. I think I need a nap.
Hello and good day. My name is Dallas Arcand. I am a 3-time world champion hoop dancer, and I'd like to thank you guys for having me today. It's a great honor and a privilege to be here to share with you a little bit about the culture, a little bit about the hoop dancing. I just started out today with an honor song to honor this space, to honor Mother Earth. And that's what a lot of our dancing is really about. It's healing dances that we do to help heal and be in balance with Mother Earth. And that's what the hoop really represents. When hoop dance started out nearly 1,200 years ago, like in our ancestors' time, like way before Christopher Columbus, I'm talking about way before Canada ever became a country, our dances have always been here. Maybe not in this format, but they've been here. You know, these dances have been going for a long time. So this is the original hoop, by the way. So this is made from red willow, and so this is a natural element. Well, minus the tape. That's my little Band-Aid there. I accidentally stepped on it and broke it, so I put a Band-Aid on it so it can stay together. Anyways, this is how it's really joined together with sinew and sap, and this is red willow. And red willow is a very sacred willow in our culture because it's used for a lot of different things. Like the animals eat it, they eat the bark from it. We use it for all kinds of different things, like everything from a dream catcher to making hoops for. If you ever look at, or if you ever find a really traditional drum, like I'm not talking about the fancy drum frames we got today, like those really thin wood that goes around and you make a nice drum out of it. No, I'm talking like pre-European times when the drums are actually made, in fact, out of hoops. And a lot of people don't know that, but if you join about 4 or 5 of these together, all the same size, they make a nice drum frame as well. So that's what the original drum frames are made out of. I've seen it done once or twice in my time. So I just thought I would share that and where the origin of the hoop dance comes from. This is part of it. This is part of the story, right? We're connected to the land and to the hoops and to everything. So this first dance that I'm going to do for you is it's all about connecting to the dance and to the spirit of the dance. So I'm just going to demonstrate really quick with one hoop just to show you what the hoop dance is really about. Like when I dance at the grand entries or intertribals, I always carry my one hoop, right, to connect with the dance circle, with the spirit of the dance, with the spirit of that energy, that continuous flowing energy, just like a river, right, when it flows through the earth, right? It's called the lifeblood of Mother Earth, right? So that's kind of what we're doing when we're dancing, as dancers dance in the circle, at powwows, at ceremonies, at everything like that. That's what we do. So anyways, I just thought I would share a little bit of that with you. So I'm going to dance now the first dance with just one hoop, just a really quick demonstration for you guys really quickly how hoop dancing is. This is Indigenous style hoop dance, and this is what it's like. So here's the first demonstration. Well, there you go. There's the first dance demonstration for you. And I just wanted to kind of do the warm-up. For us, it's kind of like a warm-up dance and hoop dance. A lot of times when hoop dancers dance into the circle, whether it's at a powwow or a traditional gathering, we always bring it in with one hoop, right? The only time we use a lot of hoops, like what you're about to see, is when we're about to perform or share our hoop dance story. Now, this hoop dance story and all of our dances are always connected to our culture and the story. So in Cree, I'll introduce my traditional name, Nisigason Nimito Pasqua Mostos Napio. So in Cree, I just said, my name is the Dancing Buffalo Man. So that's why on my outfit I have these buffalo imagery, right? Like I have a buffalo on the back of my outfit. I have it on my beaded belt right here. This is fully beaded. And on my side drops, there's buffalo symbols. Even on my moccasins. I know you guys are virtual right now, so I'm trying to share as much as I can. Hopefully this green screen situation doesn't affect too much, but that's okay. That's the magic of it. That's the magic you're gonna see today. So I just wanted to share a little bit about the hoop dance and why we do it and what it all means. All dancing is healing. All dancing is healing for our people. Even for me, as a dancer, it has healed my life in many different ways, more than I could even fully understand myself. And I am grateful for all the beautiful things that have been gifted to me as a hoop dancer. This has truly been a gift of life, and I'm grateful for it. It's given me a life. It's given me a lot of opportunities to travel. It's given me good health. It's given me good vibes, and you know, it's given me many opportunities to travel around the world, and that's what I love about hoop dancing. And when I first started out, I didn't really know much. So anyways, for this next dance that you're gonna see, I'm gonna dance with 20 hoops. Now this one is can be very complicated for the most part, but with 20 hoops, that's what I started out dancing with. Well, I only learned 5 in the beginning, but then I branched out from there. And where we are in Treaty 6 territory, this is Treaty 6, Edmonton area is basically Treaty 6, so all across Edmonton, central Alberta to central Saskatchewan, that's Treaty 6 territory. And there's a lot of individual bands and First Nations that are connected to it along the way, whether it's Cree, maybe the Dene, Nakota Sioux, the Assiniboine, I imagine. I don't quite know the Saskatchewan side so well, but I know that we're all kind of connected in one way or another with Treaty 6. It was signed in 1876, so way before Alberta even became a province, this treaty's been in existence amongst my nation. I come from the Alexander First Nation. Alexander is just a little outside of the city here. It's about a half-an-hour drive. And it's my community. I have a lot of family there. I have a lot of history there. We have an annual powwow there as well. So I just wanted to share that with you guys today in respect of my culture and where we come from and all that. Wanted to share a little bit of the history of that. Now with these 20 hoops, even the way I set up my hoops is there's meaning to it. There's purpose to it, right? There's all kinds of connections right there. There's all kinds of teachings right there. That's the medicine wheel over there, right? That's the 4 directions. Each hoop is pointing in each direction, right? So the 4 directions, and the one in the center is the one for the balance, right? It's representing for the balance, the circle, right? The hoop, it's representing for that. And then these hoops right here, right in front of the 4, that's the rest of the hoops. So that would be, 15 hoops sitting there. But they all are coordinated and such, and they're set up even in a floral pattern. So I have this 4 pattern. 4 is a very important number in our culture because 4 represents for the 4 directions represents for the 4 parts of the medicine wheel, represents for the 4 seasons. So there it is in balance with nature, because this dance has a lot of land-based teachings in it that they can be seen within the dance. And as we progress in the dance as hoop dancers, we always put it forward to learn and extract more teachings. The more we do this, the more we go out there on the land and learn things. That's the most important thing. So without further ado, I'm going to perform the hoop dance with 20 hoops for you guys. So here we go, and this is the sound of the Northern Cree Singers. I do have a little bit of time for questions. I was sent some questions, and these are fairly common standard questions I get asked a lot in hoop dance. A lot of people ask me because I've been doing this for a long time. Like when I started this, there wasn't a lot of hoop dancers in my area. I only ever heard of the odd hoop dancer, but I didn't really see them. I didn't grow up with it. I didn't have it in my family. You know, I was adopted too, but you know, still in First Nations, I stayed in the community. But yet I still didn't know much about hoop dancing and culture, and I didn't even know that I had the right to do any of these dances, because at one time it was pretty much illegal for First Nations, for our people to practice their culture, like powwows, potlatches, whatever, you know, any type of traditional gatherings. Even at one time, our elders were even punished for speaking the language. You know, I remember hearing stories of how they used to get their mouth washed out with soap because they spoke the language, right? They were trying to assimilate our people, which wasn't good. But now we're in that path of reconciliation. So how old was I when I started learning hoop dancing? Well, I was roughly around 13 or 14 years old. And hoop dancing actually saved my life, because if it wasn't for hoop dancing, I probably would have went down a bad path in life. I probably would have ended up in jail. I was actually in jail when I decided to not take my freedom for granted anymore. So I was in jail at 13 years old. And yeah, I grew up poor, and I grew up in the hood, right? So a lot of times I would get in trouble just for hanging around with the wrong crowd, doing the wrong things. And that's what I mean when I say hoop dancing saved me. It saved me in a big way, because it gave me purpose. It gave me connection to my culture. It gave me pride in who I was, and when I wasn't so proud of the things I was doing at the time, right? And it made my community and my people, my family, proud of me. So for that, I'm very thankful. So that was around the age I started dancing. I've been doing it now for just about 30 years. Pretty much 30 years I've been doing hoop dancing. What made me interested in hoop dancing? As I said before, my culture, connection, and the magic. The pure magic of the hoop dance is really what enticed me the most, because I was, as a kid, which kid doesn't like magic? Like, come on, guys. Everybody loves magic, you know? Magic shows are awesome. So as a kid, I really related to that. Now, do I have to do a lot of training? Yes, I do. Well, to dance at my level, yeah. You know, at the world championship level, that takes a lot of commitment, a lot of training. You know, you can't eat too much Indian tacos. You gotta kind of have somewhat of a strict diet and a lifestyle. You gotta be able to get up in the mornings and go for a jog, eat right, sleep right, you know, all those things. You know, I'm not perfect by all means. I'm a human being. I sometimes I do get a little lazy at times, and I pay for it later. You know, so, but for the most part, it's always good to pay it forward. Now, where does hoop dancing come from? Well, that was a question I asked a lot when I first started. The elders always told me it came from our ancestors, right? It came from our people, right? It came from our traditions. It came from a healing ceremony. Originally, the hoop dance was a ceremony, and it wasn't like a performance like how it is today. It was originally just a ceremony, and it wasn't for public display or anything like that. And they say, like, if you really want to know, like, a lot of people say it came from Taos Pueblo. It was born in there, and Tony Whitecloud was one of the ones that made it famous. He was one of the very first ones to make it mainstream. Because Indigenous performing arts, it didn't really exist, really. Like, if you think back 50 years, there's no history of Indigenous people in the performing arts doing Indigenous things, that is, you know. So anyways, what's my favorite animal or formation to make? I'd have to say the bear. When I did the bear, I love doing the bear one, because it's like so big and massive, and it's like you can feel the power and the spirit of the bear. That's my favorite. Now, do I have a favorite hoop dancer? Yes, I do. I have a few of them. Unfortunately, in 2020, we lost a good friend and a brother, fellow hoop dancer, Nakota Lawrence. He was one of my all-time favorites. You know, him and I went head-to-head for years. You know, he was like a little brother to me, and you know, I just loved the dude. He was such an amazing hoop dancer. But his teacher, who he used to call his master, like if he was still around, he'd be still saying, "My master, Derek Davis." Derek Suwama Davis is the greatest of all time in my books, because he's won 8 hoop dance championships, like way more than me, man. But he's from down there, so he kind of has the advantage. But I like the dude because he keeps it real. His outfit is authentically made by the people in the Hopi village, right down in the Mesa there. And he dances with wooden hoops, and he only uses 5 hoops, and this guy's like super amazing. But I have a lot of favorites too. I do like Patrick Willey's style. I like James Jones is from our area. You guys might know him as Notorious Crease, a friend of mine. I really like what he's come up with. He came from the same place as me, you know, Edmonton. So, you know, if you grew up in Edmonton, you'd know it's kind of rough here for natives at times, you know, and it's just like Winnipeg. Winnipeg and Edmonton are kind of the same. But anyways, yeah, so that's my answers to my question, and that's my presentation for today. So thank you so much for having me. It's been a great honor and a privilege. And if you want to learn more, follow me on TikTok. I'm Celtic Cree on TikTok, and on Instagram, Celtic_Cree, or else go to Facebook, Dallas Arcand Hoops. Thank you. Have a good day.
Closed captioning is brought to you in part by Raven Reads. Unbox Indigenous voices. Subscribe today at ravenreads.org.
Call the Rogers TV viewer response line. Email us or connect with us on social media.
On Friday's Daytime Ottawa, we invite you to join us for a special edition of the show as we celebrate Truth and Reconciliation Day here at Rogers TV. Please join us as our guests share some powerful stories and remind us why we can and should become allies to Indigenous people across Canada and, of course, around the world. Our guests will share their Indigenous culture and food and tell us about some fantastic events we can all partake in.
Hello, my name is Abaluk. People down south call me Michael Kusuga. And we are Inuit. A long, long time ago, we ended up way up north in North America. And in one of the coldest places in the world. And we decided to stay. Why? We could have moved to British Columbia We could have moved to Manitoba, we could have moved to Ontario, Quebec, or anywhere else, but we decided to stay. And in most of the places where we come from, there are no trees. So we had to invent something to use for shelter. And to do that, we invented the most ingenious shelter in the world. We call it igloo. And it's all made out of snow. And we had to heat our igloos, so we invented something we call a hudlik. This is a model that we got from Paul Alpilatuk in Rankin Inlet. And this is just a small one. It's made out of soapstone, and the ones that we used were really big. So they were really, really heavy, and we only used them in the winter because in the summer, we couldn't lug them around. They were too heavy. And we had to eat. And we discovered there are lots of animals. Caribou. There are lots of caribou. And most Inuit live on a coast. And in the bays and oceans, there are seals, there are walruses, there are whales, there are polar bears, there are fish, and all kinds of other animals. And in the spring, birds arrive by the thousands to build their nests, to raise their young, and in the fall, they fly away by the millions. And so we had all this food, and after a while, we got to live very comfortably because we had everything we needed. We had shelter, we had food, we had oil from the seals for our hudliks. We even had toys. And then there got to be more and more and more of us. And today, Inuit are spread out all across the north. There are Inuit in Siberia, there are Inuit in Alaska, there are Inuit all across northern Canada, including northern Quebec and Labrador, and there are Inuit in Greenland. We all speak the same language with many different dialects. We eat the same basic foods. We dress basically the same. We have the same culture. And after a while, there got to be so many of us that we had to decide on rules that we needed to have to live in peace, so we're not fighting all the time. And we needed rules about how to take care of our young people, to raise them to be respectable adults. We needed rules about how to take care of old people, because the old people have been around for a long time and they have all this knowledge that we have to learn before they pass away. We needed rules about how to take care of the land and the sea, because the land and the sea sustain all the animals that give us food, that give us clothing, that give us oil for our hudliks. So one day, a long, 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 long time ago, we made up all these rules. And then we have to teach them to other people. We had to teach them to our young people. And to do that, we created stories. And when I was a little kid, I loved to sleep at my grandmother's igloo. And every night, I would lie there beside my grandmother, and I'd say, "Ananikia kunikakto alawit," and she would say, "Kunikakto agsakangin nama." "Grandmother, please tell me a story." But I have no story to tell. And then, "Grandmother, please tell me a story." But I have no story to tell. And after I asked her many, many times, she would say, "Okay, settle down and I'll tell you a story." And my grandmother told me some of the most wonderful stories I have ever had. When I was a little kid, my most favorite story was the one that goes, "Ananikia yuki magtawyuk, kupano ako kulong migoy galayak tawyuk, palatatatayuk." It's a story about a little kid and her grandmother, and they got left behind all by themselves in their igloo, and then a little bird came, a little white bird, a snow bunting. It broke the window, it said, "Palatat, you could flew away." And that was the story. And I really loved that story, and I would ask my grandmother to tell it to me over and over and over until she got tired of it. And then I would have to ask her again, and she would say, "But I have no story to tell." But of course, my grandmother always had lots and lots of stories to tell. Well, when I started to grow up, I discovered that we weren't the only ones with all those little stories. The Hablina, the Caucasians or people from across the ocean, they have their own stories too, like those, and they call them nursery rhymes. And we had lots of them. And then we have all these legends. The most famous person in our stories is a man called Kiviok. My grandmother said Kiviok was born a long time ago, so long ago that he was the very first person on earth. And I used to say to my grandmother, "Ananikek, if Kiviok was the first person, how come he had a mother?" And she would say, "Don't argue with old people." But my grandmother was very kind and gentle, and I wasn't very scared of her, so I would tease her. "Grandmother, he had a mother. How could he be the first person?" Well, the old people say Kiviok is still alive, but he is so old, his body is turning to stone. And they say someday, when his heart turns completely to stone and stops, that will be the end of the universe. And there are many stories about this man. The very first story I've heard about Kiviok was a story about this little boy. And this little boy loved to go out to play, but there were mean boys who lived in his camp. They would run after him, they would fight him, they would make him cry, they would rip up all his clothes, and the poor boy would go home to his grandmother because he was an orphan. He had no mother and no father, so he lived with his grandmother. And his poor old grandmother would take her needle and thread, and she would sew his clothes all back together again. And the little boy would put on his clothes, he would go off to play. The mean boys would run after him. They would fight him, they would make him cry, they would rip up all his clothes, and his poor old grandmother had to sew them all back together again. One day, when the little boy came home, there was a little seal that somebody had caught for them, and it was lying on the floor. His grandmother said, "I would like you to skin that seal." So the little boy took a knife. He started to skin the seal. His grandmother said, be careful, don't put any holes in the skin." So very carefully, the little boy skinned the seal. And when he was all finished, his grandmother said, "I would like you to take the seal skin and pull it over your head, and I would like you to put your head in that pail of water." There was a great big pail of water on the floor. So the little boy took the seal skin, he pulled it over his head so that it fit nicely, and he looked like a little seal. And then he took a deep breath, and he stuck his head into this pail of water. He kept his head underwater as long as he could, and when his lungs hurt, he lifted his head and he went, and his grandmother said, "Do it again." So he took another deep breath, and he stuck his head back into this pail of water. He kept his head underwater as long as he could, going like this. You know what seals look like? They look like this. And he kept his head underwater as long as he could, and when his lungs were just about to break, he lifted his head and he went, and his grandmother said, "Do it again." So he took another deep breath, and he stuck his head back into this pail of water. He kept his head underwater as long as he could, going, and when he was just about to drown, he lifted his head and he went, And his grandmother said, do it again. Every time he lifted his head, his grandmother would say, do it again. He would take a deep breath and he would stick his head back into this pail of water. And you know, after a while, he could keep his head underwater for a long, 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 long time. There was an old man way up north in a place called Kugatu. He told me that when he started putting his head underwater, he could keep it underwater not for very long, but after a while, he could keep it underwater longer and longer and longer until he could move the sun. Have you ever tried to hold your breath until the sun moves? It takes a long time. And finally, his grandmother was satisfied that he could keep his head underwater long enough. And she said, I would like you to go down to the beach. And when you're walking to the beach, make sure nobody sees you. And when you get to the water's edge, I would like you to take the sealskin and pull it over your head and jump into the water and go for a swim and come up right in front of all your mean friends who are playing on the beach. And sure enough, all the mean boys were playing on the beach. You know, when I was a little kid, we used to play down on the beach. Somebody would make a sack out of some kind of skin or cloth, and they would fill it with sand. And then they would sew it all up so it wouldn't leak, and then we'd play catch with this thing. We call it ataoyak. And that's what the mean boys were doing. They were playing ataoyak down on the beach. The little boy took the sealskin. He walked down to the beach. He made sure nobody saw him. And when he got to the water's edge, he took the sealskin, he pulled it over his head so that it fit nicely, and he looked like a little seal. And then he took a deep breath, and he jumped into the water. He swam underwater, and he came up right in front of all the mean boys who were playing on the beach. They looked at him, and they said, hey, there's a little seal. They thought he was a little seal. And they all ran up, they grabbed their kayaks, you know, their long skin boats. And they put their kayaks in the water, they hopped, and they took their long paddles. And they started paddling, following the little seal. The little seal would go down underwater, and he would swim a little bit farther out, and then he would come up again. And then he would go down, and he would swim a little bit farther out, and then he would come up again. And the mean boys who fought him and made him cry and ripped all his clothes, they were paddling their kayaks following along behind him. And it was a beautiful, beautiful day. And after a while, they were way out at sea. And when they were way out at sea, when the little seal came up, he would lift up his arm and his leg and he would sing, Anawigana, Anawiga Haili, Unga, Unga. And then he'd go down again. He would swim a little bit farther out, and when he came up, he would lift up his arm and his leg, and he would sing, Anawiga now, Anawiga Haili, Unga, Unga. And then he'd go down again. He would swim a little bit farther out, and when he came up, he would lift up his arm and his leg, and he would sing, Where's my wind? I want my wind. And he would make a crying sound like a little baby. Wah, wah. People say the weather that was on the day you were born is your very own weather. And that is why, if you are born on a sunny day, usually the sun shines on your birthday. If you were born on a rainy day, usually it rains on your birthday. And this little boy was born on a very, very windy day. And he was calling the weather that was on the day he was born. Where is my wind? I want my wind. And he made a crying sound like a little baby. Wah, wah. The wind heard him and it started to come. It got windier and windier and windier. And before long there were huge waves in the water. And the kayaks with all the mean boys were going up and down in these huge waves. And every now and then, a giant wave would come and it would flip the kayaks over. And before long, there was only one person left. That person was Kirio. Now, Kiviok was very good with his kayak, and he paddled his kayak on and on, going up and down in the big waves. And when a giant wave came and flipped his kayak over, he would roll it back up. He was really, really good with his kayak. And he kept on going. No matter how cold and wet and tired he got, he never gave up. He paddled his kayak on in the big storm, and every time it flipped over, he would roll it back up. And finally, after a long time, the wind stopped and the sea became really, really still again. And Kiviok was so tired, he put his paddle on his lap, he put his head on his chest, and he fell asleep. He slept for a long time, and when he woke up, he sat up in his kayak, he stretched, he looked around, he looked all around, but there was nothing but water. He was way out in the middle of the ocean. And because he was way out in the middle of the ocean, he couldn't see any land anywhere. And because he couldn't see land, he didn't know which way to go. And while he was sitting there, he started to think about some strange and wonderful things. One of the things he thought about was this little feather he had on the back of his coat. You see, ever since he was a tiny little boy, his mother, see, I told you he had a mother. I told my grandmother he had a mother. His mother always sewed a little feather on the back of his coat. It was a feather from a little bird called a salwak. And a salwak is a little brown bird that swims in tiny ponds. And while it's swimming, it goes around in circles. Around and round and round and round. And while it's going around in circles, it goes like this. They're funny little birds, and I love to watch them. And he had this little feather on the back of his coat. And he always wondered what it was for. And while he was sitting there, a little bird came. A little white bird, a snow bunting. You know, that like that little bird that broke the window? It landed on his kayak. It looked at Kiviok and said, "Do you know which way to go?" And Kiviok said, "No, I don't know which way to go because there's nothing but water." And the little bird said, "Well, follow me." So he started to follow the little bird. And he paddled his kayak on. And after a long time, he saw this really thin line on the horizon. And he thought it was land. So he paddled his kayak toward it. But after a while, it disappeared. And Kiviok said, it's disappeared again. It must have been a big wave. And the little bird looked at him again and said, "Do you know which way to go?" And Kiviok said, "No, I don't know which way to go because there's nothing but water." And the little bird said, "Well, follow me." So he started to follow the little bird again. And he paddled his kayak on. And after a long time, he saw this really thin line on the horizon, like a little piece of thread. And he thought it was land. So he paddled his kayak toward it. And this time, it did not disappear. It got thicker and thicker and thicker and thicker. And Kiviok landed his kayak way over on the other side of the ocean in this strange place. And you know, when I was a little boy and my grandmother told me that story, for the longest time, I didn't know the story had an ending because I always fell asleep. You like that story? Well, you know, that is just the beginning of the story of Kiviok. When Kiviok ended up on the other side of the ocean, the very first things he came across were giant spiders, and they started to chase him, and he had to run away. And then he found a strange igloo. It had no top, and when he walked up to it and looked inside, there was a giant bumblebee sitting there. And it was cooking some strange stuff in a cooking pot. And Kiviok had all these adventures with these strange creatures. And every time he got into trouble, a little bird would come, a little white bird. You know that little bird he had in the back of his coat, the little salwak, the little brown one? That was his magic bird. And his magic bird would send him a little white bird, and the little bird would help him. And he had all these adventures and he got homesick. So he started traveling, trying to find his way home. And while Kiviok was trying to find his way home, he traveled through every part of the north. So there are stories about him everywhere. If you go to Siberia, you can hear stories about Kiviok. If you go to Alaska, you can hear stories about Kiviok. We have Kiviok stories all across northern Canada, and there are Kiviok stories in Greenland too. And those are the stories that I heard when I was a little boy. Thank you.
I'm Trudy Metcalf-Coe, Inuit chef, living in Ottawa, originally from Nain Nunatsiavut on the northern coast of Newfoundland and Labrador. I was born in northern Labrador in a town called Northwest River, but only because there was no hospital in my home community, which is much further north. I come from the community of Nain, which I consider my home, even though I left when I was 7 years old. And it's the last community on the northern coast of Newfoundland and Labrador in the Inuit land claims region of Nunatsiavut. So I moved to Ottawa about 34 years ago, and I've been here ever since. I started cooking when I was a child, so about 12 years old, and it wasn't anything inspirational or anything. I just didn't like being out in the cold and fetching the firewood and shoveling the snow, so I chose to stay inside and cook for my siblings and my mum. It was much warmer in the kitchen. Now it's too hot in the kitchen sometimes. So being Inuit, being from the Arctic, even though I grew up in the south, all of our food is from the land. So we call our foods country foods. So those are the land animals and the sea mammals and fish. And it's what I choose to cook for, like if I'm doing events, for example. I don't choose to cater if it doesn't involve education of some sort or involve Inuit awareness in any way, then I choose not to. I love cooking our foods. I cook a lot for the community here in Ottawa, the Inuit community. And the other thing behind it is I'm able to source the foods from the north. So I'm supporting Inuit hunters and fishermen and helping them while they help me. They probably help me more than I help them. I'm an Inuit chef. You'll see different things around me with an ulu on it. So on my jacket, I have an ulu. I have an ulu right here. I have ulu tattoos. And the ulus, and I also have my utensils have been etched with ulus by one of my daughters. So ulus are important. There's a traditional Inuit woman's knife, and I didn't grow up with it, but I have several. It's just something that reminds me of where I come from and who I am and my connection to my culture. I also have an Inukshuk here. Inuit are very identifiable by Inukshuk. There's different kinds, different styles, different shapes based on what they might mean, because traditionally they would be used to help identify hunting grounds, safe spaces, or dangerous places. There's a lot of different styles. They mean different things, and elder Inuit would know better. They've become somewhat commercialized, but they're beautiful. They're natural rock. I have one actually on my watch that I beaded the strap for because I'm also a crafter. As Inuit, more often than not, we eat our food frozen raw. So I do love just eating Arctic char and caribou dipped in soy sauce. We probably, outside the Asian countries, we probably purchase more soy sauce than anybody else. And I think my favorite meal to cook would probably, actually, very simple meal, and this is not, I'm Inuit, but my heritage is also from Newfoundland, so fish, right? And growing up, we used to have fish a lot. It wasn't Arctic char, it was codfish primarily, but just fried fish, mashed potatoes, and peas. If I'm frying fish, this is what I'm having with it. Very basic, very simple, but it's definitely one of my favorite meals. I also love making caribou tartare. That's a new thing for me. So just about a year or so. And it's something that if I want a quick meal at supper time and I'm cooking just for myself, rather than just a fried egg, I'll make caribou tartare and have a raw egg on top. So on June 24th, Madauki is hosting a long table dinner at 4420 West Hunt Club Road at the new Indigenous Summer Solstice Experiences location. So we're hosting a dinner where I'm going to be the partner chef with a good friend of mine, George Laurier, who I met through Indigenous Summer Solstice probably 4 or 5 years ago, where we did another long table dinner. So the two of us are putting our heads together and we are doing a long table dinner featuring country foods from the Arctic, but with a flair because George is a very well-known French chef. So we've become really good friends and we've done several events together for Indigenous Summer Solstice. And this is going to be an exciting one because we're creating a whole new menu of things that I haven't made before, except for one dish. There's one dish that I made last weekend, which we're serving at the long table dinner also. And the menu is going to consist of muskox, Arctic char, and caribou. And we haven't finalized the menu, but we're getting really close. Just thinking about it, I'm already like, I want it to happen now. So if anybody would like to attend the long table dinner on June 24th at Madowkey Farms, Indigenous Summer Solstice new area, we are going to have a link to the website, and you can purchase tickets through there to come and have some amazing food and a wonderful experience. There's going to be entertainment, and we look forward to seeing you.
Closed captioning is brought to you in part by Raven Reads. Unbox Indigenous voices. Subscribe today at ravenreads.org.
Call the Rogers TV viewer response line. Email us or connect with us on social media.
On Friday's Daytime Ottawa, we invite you to join us for a special edition of the show as we celebrate Truth and Reconciliation Day here at Rogers TV. Please join us as our guests share some powerful stories and remind us why we can and should become allies to Indigenous people across Canada and, of course, around the world. Our guests will share their Indigenous culture and food and tell us about some fantastic events we can all partake in.
Hi, I'm Chelsea June.
And I'm Yai.
And we are Twin Flames. Thank you so much, Summer Solstice Indigenous Music Festival, for having us be with you today. We're so excited to share some of our songs and stories and a little bit about our cultural backgrounds and where we come from. The first song we're going to sing is called Plain Song. It's a song about being proud of who you are and where you come from, no matter where that is. Because we all have stories that are unique to us alone. And it's important to share those stories and to be proud. Hi, 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 hi. 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 our place, told we'd be alone. Scared to speak up, scared we'd be wrong. What if in that moment we stood tall? Refused to surrender, refused to fall. Hi, 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 hi. 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 Dare to reach out, don't feel alone. Stand all together and stand strong. For we can be the change we wish to see. It's all up to you, it's up to me. Stand proud and sing it. Hi, 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 hi. Sing it with us. Hi, 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 hi. Hi, 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 hi. Hi, 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 hi. Dare to stand out, don't be the same. Soar like the eagle in your veins. Be proud of who you are and what remains. Look in the mirror and sing. Hi, 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 hi. Sing it with us. Hi, 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 hi. Hi, 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 hi. Hi, 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 hi. Listen to the voice that's deep inside. Inside, inside, inside. The one that tells you not to hide. Don't hide, don't hide, don't hide. Don't follow the path that lies ahead. Make your own road instead. Stand proud and sing it. Hi, 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 hi. 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 Hi, hi.
So earlier I said, my name is Yayi. Yayi is George in Inuktitut. I come from a little town called Huaktak. Huaktak is in Nunavik. Nunavik is in the northernmost part of the province of Quebec. I was very fortunate that I grew up on the land with my grandparents. You know, they taught me a lot of things. They taught me that we have to be prepared for everything, and we have to be able to communicate in order to get to where we want. That translates into everything we do in life. We have to be able to communicate. Without communication, we won't resolve problems. So Haigit is about that. It's about two people resolving issues, talking it out, figuring each other out, solving problems together. This is So Haigit.
I'm so sorry. Ilan yung ito ko nga. I'm so sorry.
This next song we're going to sing for you is called Native by Nature. Native by Nature is a really important song that I wrote to help myself fit in with cultural differences. You know, I'm a big mixing pot of cultures, so I have Indigenous heritage as well as settler heritage. And learning to navigate that and find my place in this world has been not always the easiest thing. Maybe you too at times have found it hard to fit in. So this song, Native by Nature, has kind of become a personal anthem song about reclaiming who I am. Think you can tell me who I am? This is our home and native land. Guess you can see it on my face. Time generations, it has been erased. I can feel it in my bones, and in my blood that flows. Feel it deep down in my soul. Why? 'Cause I'm native by nature. Native by nature. Oh, native by nature. Oh. Grandfather, no, he wasn't proud. Stereotypes were spoken out loud, and he chose to hide it all away. But I choose to bring it back today, 'cause I'm native by nature. Native by nature. Oh, native by nature. Memories are never lost, for they are ours to find. They lay within us, deep inside our minds. Follow the ancestors, listen to what they've said. Live a life where everything is sacred. Treat yourself and others with respect. Time has come to make a change, and be proud of what remains. And our hearts, they all beat the same. Let's not waste another day, 'cause we're native by nature. Native by nature. Oh, native by nature. Oh, take it away, Yair.
The next song we're going to sing for you is a song called Tanisi. Tanisi in Inuktitut means to dance in English. You know, where I come from, especially over the Christmas holidays, there's about 3 weeks of dancing every night. Square dancing, they call it. The jig. You know, once upon a time, we danced to the khilaut, which is an Inuk hand drum, which shamans and our elders would dance to say thanks for the abundance of food that we received for the seasons. And today, we still practice it, but we've also adopted Tanisiq, the jig.
The last song we're going to sing for you is a song called Human. Human is a really important song to both Yaya and I. It's a song that we were asked to write a few years ago now for UNESCO to celebrate 2019's International Year of Indigenous Languages. You know, as songwriters, whenever we're asked to write a song for something so cool, we get extremely excited, and it's just been beautiful to see how far this song has traveled and how many languages this song has been translated into.
When I say Inubunga, I am saying I am human. When I say Inubunga, I am saying I am people. But the most important one, when I say Inubunga, I am saying I am alive. And those three words in my language, in Inuktitut, mean the same thing in my language, in my mother tongue. Inuvunga. We are all human.
Bitu hakchame si volle pavanon adoktola to me digo mekonga kayo sinakara angayoka kanodo khaya lauma. I have a language that was born with time, passed on through generations, one of a kind. Keep it close to me, close to my heart, share for all to hear. I will do my part.
I am proud, je suis fier of who I am.
I am human. I am people. I am human. I am people.
I am proud, je suis fier of who I am. I am proud, je suis fier of who I am. We are trying to find a place. It n'est pas trop tard. It n'est pas trop tard. We are all the human race. Il faut faire l'effort. Il n'est pas trop tard. I am proud, je suis fier of who I am.
I am human. I am people. I am human. I am people.
Our elders say we were given our languages from the animals, from the trees, yet we cut them down. Many things have been taken from our people, yet we are still here. Our languages are not lost, but simply resting, waiting to be reawakened.
We are human. We are people. We are human. We are people. We are human. We are people. We are human.
Nakokmeek. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Chimikwich. Welcome back, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for this question and answer period. So the very first question we have is, when did you first learn music and what did you learn first?
Oh, that's a great question. I always say that I'm a late bloomer. I learned to play guitar at a very later age. And that's a perfect example of when we say it's never too late. You're never too old to learn something new. So I think I learned how to play guitar. And the moment I learned how to play, then I started adding words, which I sung to.
So for myself, I was about 5 years old and I loved playing the piano at my grandparents' house. So I'd spend hours and hours playing the piano. And I think it was right around the age of 5 as well that I noticed I could sing a little differently than other people. And so I've been doing that pretty much my whole life. But I suffered a lot with shyness and stage fright. And so I didn't actually ever perform in front of people publicly until the age of 27. And so for myself as well, I was quite the late bloomer in music. The next question is, how does your language and culture influence your music?
Another great question. I'm going to start because I also sing or no Inuktitut, which is my mother tongue. I'm just very gracious that my wife is able to sing Inuktitut with me. And I find that pretty cool that she learned how to sing the words. I think it's the inverse. I believe that the music influences the language and the culture. And I think it just kind of chooses what it wants to be as we develop sound. Let's say we find the melody and then all of a sudden it starts to kind of automatically find its own words.
So for myself, I don't speak any of my indigenous languages that are part of my heritage. They've been not spoken in my family for many generations now. And so I always feel very honored that I get to sing in Inuktitut with Yayi. So language, I think, is really important, especially when we're creating music. I think it's important for young Inuit children to be able to hear music in their own language, in their communities. And it's also really important for the rest of the world to discover Inuktitut. It's one of the oldest languages. So I think it's really cool that we get to do that. I think our cultures just happen to influence our music because it's a huge part of both of our lives and a huge part of our healing journeys. I mentioned that earlier when I was talking about my spirit flute, but both Yayi and I have found a tremendous amount of healing in our music. And a lot of Indigenous people are on a healing journey and overcoming a lot of things that have happened over multiple generations in our families. And so I think when we're sharing our songs and our stories, it's also really important for others to get a little window and a little idea of the things that we have both individually lived. So Chimigwich, that's thank you and all.